So it's about 1 month ago. Beautiful February day in Austin, one of those warm February days, clear skies. I'm getting into my car and I check my phone and I realize I've got a voicemail from my friend Chad. I'm like, uh-oh. Clear skies go cloudy. Dark. Chad rarely calls me. Even more rarely does he leave a voicemail. This isn't because we're not close. We're actually best friends growing up. We met when I was 9 years old. And we're pretty much inseparable from the start, even though we had practically nothing in common. I was this lanky white boy. Chad was this furry Mexican man boy. I was into playing sports and getting good grades. Chad was into playing video games and had asthma. But we're 9 years old. We don't really care about how we're different. We're just like, I like you. You like me. Let's hang out. But we have nothing in common, so we need to invent something to hang out together. So we start a band. Our friend Alex played drums. Chad decides to learn bass. I learned how to play guitar. And for years, we had a band so that we had something to do together. I'm pretty sure most of the adults in our life were probably like, why are they such good friends? Why are they inseparable? But we didn't really care. We weren't asking that question until we start to grow up and we become more conscious of how we're different. Start to develop, different friend groups, different cliques, different interests. As I become more interested in church, Chad is decidedly against the whole religious industrial complex. I become a dog person. Chad becomes a cat person, which is hard. I became quite a prudish kid, whereas Chad's idea of a good time was taking a picture of the number 69 anywhere he saw it. And then Facebook comes out, and so he posted on Facebook any chance he gets, where my mom was definitely friends with him. Yeah, and so I start asking... So we start asking, there's a little bit of the question, why are we friends? How do we fit into each other's life? I develop into this very analytical, the generous term for it, I think would be intentional person. Intensely intentional. Whenever I would start dating a girl in high school, I would tell her at the beginning of the relationship, the reason we're dating is so I can figure out if you're going to be my wife. That was the kind of, who says that at 15 years old? On the way to PE class. I read this Jim Rohn quote in high school. It was, you've probably heard it, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That was my kind of quote. It's like, yes, you be intentional. So I would start making lists of who are the 5 people that I spend the most time with, and are they worthy of being my top 5? Are they worthy of influencing me? And I would always get to Chad's name and I'd be like, how does Chad fit? Does he fit? Why are we friends? And yet, when Ashley and I got engaged, and it came time to pick a best man, I went to Chad. I asked him, and he said yes. Although he almost backed out when, do you remember this? When we told him we wanted the whole wedding party to be barefoot. Chad was a furry man. He is a furry man. And so the idea for him of walking down an aisle in between all of our family and friends with his exposed hobbit feet was mortifying for him. But we talked him into it, and so the day comes, and to make matters worse, it was a very windy day. So Chad is walking arm in arm with my sister, and the hair on his feet billowing. He gets up there and stands next to me. I know he's just mortified, but that was the moment that I knew Chad loved me. So I'm in the car, and I've got this voicemail from Chad, who I haven't seen in person in 5 years, by the way, despite the fact that we've lived down the road from each other for most of those 5 years. Because 5 years ago, when the pandemic happens, everybody goes into lockdown. Chad never really came out of lockdown. He has a heart condition, asthma, intense anxiety, probably some other things that have led him to decide it's best for him to stay isolated. And this has been hard for me to not take personally sometimes. Like, really, man? Even me, even us, like, why are we friends? Are we friends? We couldn't even play music anymore to connect over, so we had to invent something else for how are we going to connect, because we have nothing in common. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, if one of us initiated or if we both kind of landed on it together, but we would do Zoom calls where we would just talk about quantum physics, of all things. Which is weird. Most people would do a book club or something, but we would just get on Zoom for an hour, 2 hours. We'd talk about wave-particle duality. Just talk about how, like, if you measure light or matter, if you measure it as a wave, it responds as a wave. But if you observe it as a particle, it responds as a particle. What the hell's going on? Is it a wave? Is it a particle? And so this is how our friendship has gone. Zoom calls talking about quantum entanglement. How particles that are separated by miles can somehow be connected, talking to each other. Doesn't make sense. And I guess it makes sense that we landed on this subject because our friendship doesn't make sense. So I'm in the car. I've got a voicemail from my friend Chad. I click play, and Chad's telling me that him and his girlfriend have set a date to get married. I haven't met his girlfriend. They met 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I had a call from Chad where he said, hey man, I met this girl. She's awesome. I can't wait for you to meet her. And the pandemic happens. And we go into lockdown. They go into quarantine together for as long as they both shall live. He's telling me on the voicemail that they're going to get married at an Airbnb that they rented in Wimberley. Just the two of them outside. Like, even your wedding? Said there's going to be a Zoom link for anybody who wants to join. And then he said, and I'd like you there to be my photographer / best man. I'm like, whew, wow. Just Chad, his girlfriend, and me. That was the moment I knew how much Chad still loves me. We'd actually talked about this years ago. I used to be a wedding photographer, and Chad would sometimes come to the wedding with me to be my photography assistant. And there was this one wedding, it's nearing the end of the reception, so it's just, drunk cousins on the dance floor, black-eyed peas. And Chad comes over to me, and he says, hey man, when the time comes, would you photograph my wedding? I said, yeah, of course, as long as I can also be your best man. And he said, well, I don't know how you're going to do both at once, but that's for future us to figure out. So now here he is on this voicemail saying, will you please come be my photographer and best man? And then he ends the voicemail by saying, the date we've set is March 7th. And I'm thinking, why does that date sound familiar? Oh, wait, I've got this storytelling thing happening at Stout House. And so my mind starts racing and trying to analyze and figure out, how am I going to do both? Which one am I going to say yes to? Which one am I going to say no to? Are we even friends? Is Chad in my top 5? My mind is racing and trying to analyze it all. But right away, my heart knows the answer. Chad's not in my top 5. Chad's my brother. What else do you call somebody that you haven't seen in 5 years, and then they call you and say, will you please come be my photographer / best man / only other person at my wedding? And you immediately know the answer. So I call him back. I say, yes, thank you so much for asking. I'll be there. I have this other thing happening at the same time. So I don't know how I'm going to do both things at once, but that's for future us to figure out. So then the wedding day comes today. And a couple hours ago, I'm down in Wimberley. Just Chad, his fiance, now wife, and me. And I'm photographing them. And I'm thinking, Is this totally weird? Or is this perfect? Are Chad and I distant? Or are we incredibly close? Is it a wave? Or is it a particle? And I know it's whatever I decide it is. It's however I observe it. And I've decided that Chad is my brother. We're entangled. Thank you.